Hello, everybody. My name's Steve, and I'm here today with Jason White, aka Jason's Weird Reads. Thanks, Jason, for joining me today.
Thank you so much for inviting me to come on.
Yeah, it's kind of weird for me because I watched your channel. I think I mentioned I watched your channel before I started my own channel, and I was wondering I don't know if I have the right personality to have a YouTube channel. And then I saw channels like yours or Mike's Book Reviews that are real just relaxed and easygoing and laid back. And I'm like, well, maybe I can get find a little bit of an audience. So
I know what you're
it's
talking.
pretty neat.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about because there's some of the younger, I guess, booktubers, especially when I started around 2017, 18. I can never remember, but there was a lot of well, there's still a lot of young people, but back then the booktubers like to like scream at the camera. And I thought the same thing. I was like, I can't compete with that. I just don't yell.
Yeah.
I don't yell at the camera, and but I just decided to do it. And you know what? It's worked so far, at least somewhat, because I get a lot of comments about how chill I am and how people appreciate that. And there's like the latest comment was only one sentence, and it was really it's a really strange one. It was like, your voice is pure Valium. And I'm like, okay, yeah, great. I'm glad that you get something out of it. So some people, I think, just want to, at the end of a hard day, or maybe at the beginning before a hard day, they just want to chill and not think about either what they did or what they have to do during the day. And people like you and me, I think we offer that sort of chill vibe. Just sit back, relax, grab yourself a coffee or a glass of wine, whatever, and let's talk about some books.
Yeah. So it's kind of surreal for me to be talking with you, and after watching so long on YouTube, it's kind of strange, to be able to chance to talk to you after all this time. Just like when you talk with authors, it's kind of strange. It's to talk to someone who you've read their work and you know them,
Yeah.
but you haven't actually interacted. So it's pretty cool.
It is strange, and it never stops being strange, honestly. I think honestly it's more strange when you're talking to somebody like this, somebody that you've been watching or listening to, because I've been on podcasts that I've been a fan of before as well, and it's just weird when you're interacting with that voice you only interacted with in your head before. Because when I'm listening to a podcast or I'm watching, just say, one of your videos, I'm either agreeing with you or I'm disagreeing. Always in a friendly way too, right? I'm just like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
that's true, or I don't really feel that way, but I do feel this way. I'm always interacting with you. You just can't interact back because obviously it's a video, right? And so when you are interacting, it's just strange, you know.
There's some friends who dropped by. Is hey, listen up, John. How's it going?
Hey, how's it going? Hi,
Brandy, my
Brandy.
wife, she's in the other room watching.
Hey, Crystal.
Paparazzi's here. Hey, how's it going? Our friend Saf is here. Happy Leftovers Day and Friday
Hello.
if you Friday if you celebrate it.
Welcome.
And Fit to be Read says glad
Oh,
you
hi,
aren't
Mike.
in a turkey coma, Steve. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about this, Jason, because I know that you're. I don't. Are you still keto? Are you doing the
Yep,
keto thing? Okay.
I am.
How was yesterday for you?
Actually, because I'm in Canada, we don't do Halloween. Yeah, we don't do Thanksgiving at the same time. Our Thanksgiving was before Halloween. I forget when exactly, but I can answer how I did then, and I did okay, honestly. I find turkey dinners and all that fairly easy because you can just pick and choose what you want uh, from what they make, or what you make. Like, I just choose to eat the turkey and the chicken, and I'm fine with that. Like, that'll fill me now, and I'm good for the rest of the night. And I'm glad it's not the way it used to be, because I would eat like two platefuls and then hurt for a good 12 hours after. And so I kind of prefer it this way, honestly.
So how was that transition for you to go from eating like used to like keto with the no sugar, no limited carbs? What was that experience like for you?
It's been a long experience because although I've talked about it on my channel quite a bit,
Mhm.
but I only talk about when I actually started doing it, I'd say a lot more correctly, because I started doing keto about 3 years ago, about the same time I started my channel, actually, and, I didn't do it right then. I kept lying to myself, saying it would be okay if I had a couple of beers this one night and then went back into it, and that doesn't work. You find yourself eventually just eating and drinking the way you used to, and, you learn a lot about yourself when you do. It's not really, I always call it keto diet because that's the easiest way of saying it, but really it's a lifestyle. It's
Mhm.
not it's a certain way of eating, and it's something you have to consistently think about because it's easy to slip back in. I have a very strong addictive personality, and one of my favorite ways to chill used to be, to crack open a couple of beers and watch movies all night and eat really bad food. And that's my biggest weakness right there. I constantly fight not having to do that. And that's what draws me into eating poorly every day. And so that's my biggest battle right now. And it took me a long time to figure out that I had that issue, that I had like an addictive, well, I always knew I had an addictive personality, but I never really realized that I was addicted to food and
Hmm.
sugar the way you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know that you've gone through this too. How long did it take for you to really settle into it?
Well, thankfully, my wife and I did it together, so it helped because, I can screw up a bowl of cereal. So if she wasn't around to help me, eat, then I probably wouldn't eat because, or I'd eat fast food every day. But it
Yeah.
helped out because we did it together and we supported each other. And she found all these really, really cool recipes that were keto friendly things, and so we had replacements. I think the hardest part was the beers because I love beer. That was the hardest part. Is you just have to get rid of all of them and you're right. You can't say, "Oh, I'll have a beer. I'll be okay." You're
Yeah.
really not. It sets you back, and it's
It's a
just not worth
step.
it.
It's a
Mm.
step back, and you don't even realize you're doing it. And it's something I keep falling back into, like throughout those I guess almost 4 years, 3.5 years anyway. So for 3 of those 3.5 years, that's all I did was I would fall back into it. And then when I reached my original, because when I first started 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, I started off at 300 pounds and I dropped 40 pounds. And I thought that was great. And that's when I started doing drinking once every couple of weeks. And then it was once a week. And then I'd have those beers almost every night. You know what I mean? It's a
Yeah.
terrible thing. Don't do that. Don't. That's why you don't start at, I'll just have the one, because it's a very slow psychological process that you don't even realize you're going through.
Hmm. That's a good point. Yeah, because we did pretty strict keto for a while, and I was feeling really good, and then we thought, well, we can have a beer once in a while, and then it became once a month, and like you said, now like once a week, and now I kind of when you go off the cliff and the pants start getting tighter, and
Yeah.
it's just like, yeah, I need to stop. This is I need to
Yeah.
get back, be more serious.
So this year when I kinda reached my old weight again, I was like, "Okay, that's obviously not working," but it's not working because the diet doesn't work. It's not working because I'm not doing it right, and I knew I wasn't doing it right, and so I decided to, uh, get strict with myself, and, I there's a reason why I did it. I didn't do it to look good or anything like that. I did it because I now have a son. He's, like, 8 years old now, and I've been struggling for the longest time. I thought my weight was sort of like a prison sentence, that there was no getting out of it. I thought that I was absolutely stuck, and because everything I tried before keto didn't work, and then I tried keto and it worked, and then it didn't work because I wasn't doing it right. And so I was like, okay, so this thing does work, and I don't want to die in my mid 50s of a heart attack. So I have a choice. Either I do this right or I don't do it. And it's a possibility that I will die younger than I could. I could live longer. And so let's try that route and see if I can just live a little bit longer, because I had my son a little bit late. I had my son when I was 39. So, I don't want to check out when he's only like 15.
Mhm, yeah. You start to see things differently as you get older, and the priorities change and things, and you just feel differently when like you said, you didn't do it to look better, you just did it to feel better and to be healthy, and you start to find all these weird, you start to see your clavicles again, and
Yeah.
you just hop out of bed in the mornings. It's a really different feeling. Than you feel less lethargic, you feel more, more full of energy.
Yeah,
it's,
very
it's
much
really
so.
weird. Yeah.
It's a strange process because your body changes, and I lived so long in a body that was overweight and unhealthy, and so I was used to that body. And this, like, about 55 pounds down now, um, I don't know how to react to certain things that happen in my body. Like, the one thing, I don't know exactly how far into keto you are, but I know one of the side effects is, instead of retaining salt, your kidneys will often flush salt. So I'm constantly having to ingest salt, and
Mm,
that's new for me. And salt was actually a fear of mine because I was told for so long that salt will kill you, it'll clog up your arteries. Well, it's not the case when you're on keto because your body is continuously flushing it, and you do need salt to live. So that was another big struggle I had to go through because I've never experienced being. I mean, when your body is in absolute need of salt, you hurt like really bad. And I thought I was just getting really sick until I realized that I had a salt deficiency. So I took like a teaspoon of salt and swallowed it down with water, and I felt like almost immediately like, holy cow, I felt so much better after that. And then I realized when I feel like that, I need salt. And the problem is I almost always need salt. So I think my body is definitely still adjusting.
yeah, I think the weirdest thing for me was eating so much fat. Like you think of fat, like you said, your whole life people tell you fat's bad for you, don't eat fat. And then all of a sudden it's like eat all this fatty stuff.
Yeah.
So that was it was a change. It was a mental thing for me to you have to consume fat for it to
Yes.
start to, transform.
And it's hard to get like all the balances right at first.
Mhm.
Um, like, because you have to eat a certain amount of fat, certain amount of protein, and you have to, try to avoid all the carbs, like 20 milligram or grams of carbs or less or whatever it is. Um, so I decided to make it easier. I pretty much I'm more on the carnivore side of I'm like ketovore, I think they call it.
Mhm.
Um, and that seems to be working so far. So,
Mm.
do you fast at all?
I used to. We used to do the 16/8. On keto, we did 16/8, and then I guess we kind of started falling off, and we can have a little bit here, a little bit there, and then, but we're trying to get back on the wagon. Yesterday was the kind of the last hurrah until we're gonna get
Mm.
serious again. So,
Yeah, I do that right now, the 16/8, and I try to do a 24-hour at least once a week.
mm,
And excuse me, I just did that today, 24 hours. And that's another really weird change, don't you find? Like, I don't always want to fast, but if I decide to fast, it's not a big problem. But before I started doing any keto whatsoever, I I couldn't go 4 to 6 hours without eating and going stark raving mad. I would be like, I'd be all shaky and I'd get a headache and I couldn't do it. Now I can, the longest I've gone on a fast, and I've only done it twice. I don't know how many more times I'll do it ever, but I've gone 48 hours without eating, and it wasn't all that hard, honestly.
mm.
Like, you have periods where you're just like, oh man, I could eat, but it's not all that pressing like it used to be.
Yeah, that's another thing that really changed with keto is that sometimes you be halfway through your day and say, I haven't eaten today. I guess I should probably eat. You just forget. You don't get the hunger that you used to.
That's so true. And also, I get cold a lot easier, especially if I'm in a fasted state. I thought I was gonna die today picking up my son from school because it's cold outside. It's snowing and the wind is up. It's blowing out there, and I'm all bundled up, and I'm like, I'm a Canadian here. I should be used to this. But where before I'd like walk around in my shorts and a t-shirt in this type of weather, like not outside, but in the house. I'm still like I'm wearing my sweaters and I'm wearing track pants and I'm still kind of chilled.
I don't know if you drink other kinds of liquor, if you still drink alcohol from time to time.
Um, Not really. I'll have like a glass of red wine every so often because I hear that's good for your gut biome.
Hmm.
But I try to avoid. It's just gonna lead back to the beer,
Yeah.
and it might lead to like me finishing off the bottle.
Well, another thing on keto is I don't know if you've noticed this too. Well, even with a glass of wine, you I mean you feel it a lot more because your liver is processing it so fast. So that's
Yeah,
another big change.
and I find the next morning is a lot harder too. I
Hmm.
think it's because when you're on high carb diet, that helps absorb the alcohol. I think I don't know the science on that, but I know that suffering hangovers is much easier if you're eating a high carb diet. If you're on a low carb diet, you're in hell the next day.
You pay for it. And our friend Juan is here.
Hey, Juan.
The two unintentional ASMR icons.
You know, that's not a terrible idea.
Yeah, I'm not. I won't. I've been of all the things I've been called, I'm okay with that. So,
Yeah.
Josh is here. Greetings from a fellow Canadian, an hour west of Toronto.
Hey, very cool. I'm about an hour north of Toronto.
Oh, nice. To be read, congrats on the 50 pounds. That's excellent.
Thanks, Mike.
And Jeremy Fee is here. Hey, everybody.
Hey, Jeremy.
TGIF indeed, Jeremy. Hope you're doing well. Okay, Jay's here. We can start.
Hey, Jay.
Fit to be read said, had my second kid at 39, and she's 8 also, so I can relate.
Yeah, Mike. He owns a I believe he owns a gym, but I know he's a fitness instructor. Um, I Mike, if you're still listening, I was actually on your webpage and I was because I know you did like the fitness thing remotely, and I was considering joining it, but I haven't yet.
Oh, right on.
So I want to get into shape too. I don't just want to lose the weight. I also want to get the pipes working properly. Um, I don't know. We'll see. I'm that's kind of like a I'm kind of afraid of doing that, and I don't know why.
Hmm. Yeah, when you are in ketosis and you're doing you're in strict keto and you work out, I mean it really kickstarts your fat loss.
Yeah,
That
it
really helped
does.
me.
You
The hardest
you
part,
mountain bike, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
the hardest part was when I was trying to transition from high carbs to low carbs. Had to adjust to energy because I didn't have energy for a long time.
Hmm.
But once something just like a switch flipped and I felt so much better. I had a lot more uh, energy and endurance.
How long did that take for that flip to switch for you?
There was a couple times when so we would go on bike rides and I would have trouble getting, getting back to, we go like 20 miles or so and come back. There's a few times when I didn't know if I'd make it on the way back just because I was so exhausted. It took about 2 or 3 months to feel really good.
That's good.
Yeah. Brandy says, I agree. Do it better. Do it. Do it to feel better rather than lose weight. It helps to have that mindset.
Yes. And it's a lot of it is just mindset.
Hmm.
I can't stress enough just how much, at least for me, it was a mindset. I had to really fix that before I could find any success whatsoever on losing the weight.
Yeah, the I think what you said earlier about it being a lifestyle, I think that's the first thing you have to have in your mind is that it's a lifestyle change. It's not a diet.
Yes,
It's a
very much.
lifestyle. Yeah. Apparently, we're health we're one's health coaches now. I don't know if I'm the person you want taking health advice from, but
Yeah, Steve, we should start a keto channel.
yeah, we should make a bunch of weird keto stuff and read books.
Yeah.
I feel best when I fast. I like one meal a day fasting.
You know what, Brandy, it's weird, but when I fast, I feel really good too.
Hmm.
Especially when I was doing like I said, the 48-hour ones, I would have periods where I'd be hungry, but right in the middle of that 48 hours, I would always feel really energetic, and I don't it's weird, but because there is no way in there's no way in hell I'd be able to do that 3 years ago. No way.
It's amazing how much it changes your body and the way it deals with food, and it's just really weird.
Yes.
MJ says Mountain Dew is my issue. It's my crack.
I understand that. I had a similar, situation with, Diet Pepsi, and aspartame is apparently really bad for your gut, and so that was another difficult thing to get rid of. I mean, I one thing I really crave is the Diet Pepsi, honestly. I
Yeah.
don't crave it so much as I just really want it.
Have you tried Zevia?
Yes, there's, something that they sell around here that's pretty much the exact same thing, and it's a little bit cheaper, and I drink that. It's nowhere near,
No,
but
no.
you know, it does the trick. It's carbonated, so that's all I need.
Yeah, it's not the same, but it's when you're desperate. And book reading, coffee drinking's here. Oh yeah, the constantly feeling cold is not fun, is it? I get that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, interesting.
2 drinks is a bad hangover. Fit to be read said I was purposely not chiming in. Was training all day. Seriously, hit me up on email anytime. Happy to talk it through with you, regardless of your plans. Oh, that's cool.
Oh, thank you, Mike. I might take you up on that. Not right away because I'm still trying to figure things out, and also I work a pretty demanding job, and, that's another reason why I didn't contact you, Mike, about that, but I don't know. We'll see in the future, hopefully.
Hmm. Yeah, I'll look into that. Priscilla Bettis is here. Hey, Priscilla. Thanks for
Hi,
coming by.
Priscilla.
It helps so much to find a fitness activity that you love.
Yes, very much so. I can see that. Like, Steve, you mountain bike, and I imagine that's a thrill. I imagine that you really like. I saw. I think it was pictures that you posted on Twitter of like one of the paths that you go through, and it looked kind of frightening to me.
It is. It's frightening to me too, but it's such a rush, and I'm not that kind of person to. I've always avoided things like that, and then I don't know why. A few years ago, I just decided to. I've always loved riding my bike, and I thought, well, let's try to ride my bike on this mountain and help me get in shape. So, and that's kind of what uh, struggling to ride up a hill was kind of what kind of pushed me towards starting keto too. So
Yeah.
yeah, because I was tired of being tired all the time.
It's easier also when you've lost the weight because of the changes in your body to go up that hill, because if you were like the weight I was, 300 pounds, trying to get up that hill, well, you could like your arteries are tightening because you're struggling so much. But when you've lost the weight, then they're looser, and I find that when I do exercise now, because I do exercise, I do like jumping jacks and I jog on the spot and stuff like that. I go out for long walks, but uh, but I find that a lot easier now. Like I don't tire it out as quite as fast. My body, my muscles get sore before like the internal me gets sore, if that makes any sense. Like
Yeah, it does.
before I'd get so wiped out and it was like deep within that tiredness. And now I'm able to push through, and it's just my muscles aching. There's nothing little more perhaps life threatening.
Yeah. You feel like I'll survive through this. I'll just be tired and not keel
Yeah.
over. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's amazing. And so we talked a little bit before we went live about coming on and how we're because I get nervous too before I do any kind of stream or meetup, or I always get really nervous until I sit down in front of the camera, and then I start feeling better and we start to chit chat. But
Yeah.
um, what is that like for you? To how do you prepare for things like that when you're going to do an interview or even just make a video?
You know, that nervousness never goes away. It just gets a little bit less. When I first started, because I started I've been doing this type of thing for since 2014. I started with the Darkness Dwells podcast, and that podcast was basically interviewing horror writers. And like I said, so that's like what, 7 years now. and that nervousness never has never gone away. One thing I like to do before I go on, I like to be here at my spot about 20 minutes before, and I blast really loud heavy metal music.
Really?
Yeah, and honestly, that connects with me in a way, and it almost mingles with my nervous energy, and it turns it into
Hmm.
something positive while I'm listening to it, because that last 20 minutes to a half hour before an interview is where I'm the most nervous, because it's like, "Oh god, it's gonna happen now," right? And so the music just really blends with that, and suddenly I'm not so nervous anymore. It's almost like the nervousness blends with the music itself, and it becomes this one wavelength, if that I don't know if that makes any sense or if I'm getting, like, really trippy here. But, that's something I do, and that's something actually I started doing this year, with doing the live streams, because I would throw on, my iTunes music, and, I'd, like, throw on some black metal or some death metal, and I was like, "This really helps."
So with other than the black or death metal and kind of that or kind of leveling you out, do you script all of your interviews and streams and things, or do you just kind of go for it?
No, I've always actually scripted, but I do, both. Basically, I come up with, like, a list of questions that I wanna ask, and then from there, when I ask a question, excuse me, something almost always comes up while you're talking, so you can't always follow the script exactly. You kinda have to follow certain leads. You kinda gotta go with your gut, and I never ever get to all my questions. I aim to ask, like, 15 to 20 questions. When I, talked to Philip Fracassi earlier this year, I had, like, 40 questions, because he's, like, one of my favorite authors, and I only got to about, I think, 11 or 12 of them.
Oh wow.
But, that was because there was a fairly large audience interaction with that one, which I don't mind. Sometimes I over ask questions because I'm nervous that you're always conscious of time too, right?
Mm,
I don't know if you are. Are you ever like, what I mean is, I don't want the interview to be over in like 20 minutes. That's, for some reason, that's a fear of mine.
yeah.
I don't know why, but I seem to think that if the interview is going to end in like 20 minutes, that I failed somehow. So I always try to come up with a lot of questions, especially, sometimes, I've had a couple of authors on. I don't know if you've had this experience yet, Steve, where where they're very nervous, and it's hard to draw anything from them. They just like give like one word answers, and you try and try to get them to talk. And I've only had it happen one or two times, and not on my channel yet, but on the podcast. And have you had that experience yet at all?
Yeah, and I know exactly what you mean about fearing that it's going to end in 20 minutes because you prepare and you plan to stretch it out for a long time, and sometimes they don't feel comfortable until you're 20, 30 minutes into it.
Yeah.
So you've asked maybe, half of what you wanted to ask, and it's 15 minutes in, and it's like, oh man, this is going to be over in like 10 minutes. But and then some authors and some people, and they elaborate and they give long answers, and sometimes you only ask 5 questions. But if it's a yes or no or really quick answers, and it can go really fast. So that's, I always worry about that I'm not asking the right questions to get the answers that everyone wants to hear. So
Yeah. It's it's kind of stressful in that, but I find that most writers, they're always nervous at first, especially if they've never done it. The more seasoned ones who've been around and done this sort of thing, they're easy. All you have to do is ask them a question and sit back, because they'll go on and on and on. And I'm sure they're nervous too. I guess it's after a while of doing it over and over again, the nervousness doesn't really matter anymore. When before, I think it had the potential of ruining things, because you overthink things, or maybe you'll miss something because you're too worried about this over here. And how long have you been I really enjoy your interviewing style, Steve, and but I don't think you've only been doing it this year, right?
yeah, it started. The first one I did was in March. So, um, oh, 7, 8 months, I guess.
That's awesome, because it's taken me, like I said, about 6 or 7 years to get it. I actually on the last year of the Darkness Dwells podcast, I think I was doing a pretty good job, but all the other years before that, I don't know, I wasn't very good. It took me a long time to really learn how to do it properly, I think. And I'm not saying I'm there yet, but I do know that I'm a lot better than I used to be.
Yeah, I try and get a little bit better each time. I still have a lot to learn, and there's a lot of things that I'm trying to pick up on, and sometimes there's little, like you said, there's so many things to think about, and you plan your next question. There's a lot and as they're answering, you're thinking of where to take the conversation next.
Yes.
So
And
it's a
sometimes,
constant.
you know what I hate the most? And this happens to me too much, where I'm talking to the author about something, and I'm like, "Oh, that's a great point. I gotta ask them about that further." And they keep talking. I'm not going to interrupt them, unless it's really important, of course. But they keep talking and they keep talking, and then I'm like, "Oh, what was that idea?" And then everything else kind of goes blank, and I'm like caught with like a deer caught in the headlights of a car because suddenly everything's blank on me and you get that one moment of terror like, oh no, it's all going to fall apart now.
Yeah, there's like no place to hide because
You're
they're
right
just
there.
looking at you, and
You're
it's
like,
probably only like 2 or 3 seconds, but it feels like an eternity.
yeah. But, it always comes back or something comes back. I mean, I always have my list of questions. If I do forget where I wanted to go, then I can just go back to that. Find myself always scrolling through the questions. I usually have like I have my Apple, my computer, which is where I do things, and then I usually have this, which where I have my notes all,
Oh yeah,
because I do all my notes on digitally. I kind of wish I was the type of person to do uh, notebooks. Oh
that's
yeah,
what I
very
do.
cool. I see a notebook and I want to fill it with words, and but I'm horrible at it. Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
But I have like tons of I have two notebooks right here. This one is actually being filled with words, but that's a different type of thing. And this is my my weird reader
Oh, nice. It's cool.
notebook, and the only thing I do in this is I literally, when I'm uploading a video to YouTube, I I count the times where I have to like drop a card or something, or where,
Oh, that's a good idea.
yeah, that's the only thing. I paid like $20 for this notebook, and that's all I use it for. I've only filled out like 2 pages on it so far.
For cards. Jay says everyone should be nervous on camera because I am judging you.
Yeah.
Says I'm kidding. Before I go live on paper cuts, I listen to a lot of Pearl Jam, not for nerves, more to pump me up, and Judas Priest and Motorhead. I would
Yeah,
have never guessed Pearl Jam.
yeah, I think honestly that's another reason why I've learned to listen to some heavy metal before going live, because not only does it take that nervous energy, but it helps pump you up too, because you really do feel it. You're like, yeah, like, let's do this thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
And Jared is here. Hey, Jared. Thanks for
hey,
coming by.
Jared.
Jeremy, if he likes your notebook.
Mm.
And Juan says, when I talked to Kath Koja and Mike Thorne, I was dead silent for the first 40 minutes. I was nervous as hell and having a million panic attacks.
I hear you. I hear you, because I've had just this year, I had at least one or two of those moments myself. Because, like I said, I talked to Philip Fracassi, and I've been reading him since he came on the scene in 2016, maybe 2015. I can't remember, but I absolutely love his work and have for a while now. And so it was kind of nerve wracking to to do that, but it was also a really rewarding experience, because after that interview, we talked off air for about 40, no, it's like an hour and a half. It was
Oh,
an
wow.
incredibly long time that we sat there and chatted. And then his son came, and he's like, "Oh, my son's here. I gotta go now." And I was like, "Okay, that was awesome, though. Thank you."
And I was trying to catch the time when to stop or when to wrap up. And then sometimes you end up, like you said, you talk for hour after you and you're not recording anymore, and so it's kind of like when do you pull the curtain?
Yeah, that can be tricky though. When it comes to after the interview is over and you're still chatting, I just sort of unless somebody's got to go, I just sort of like if I have the free time and they seemingly have the free time, then yeah, sure, let's sit here and chat. But uh, yeah, sometimes you can't do that. I wish I could do that more often. I was lucky on that day with the Philip Fracassi interview because I didn't have anything going that day at all, and so him just wanting to sit there and shoot the breeze with me, it was just like, yeah, that's awesome, man.
That's really cool. And Juan says, needless to say, I now have immense respect for all you do. Yeah, it's. I think you did a great job on it. I watched that stream. I thought you did a really good job with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people doing this type of thing now, and I think that's great because this gets a lot of authors out there. Like I said before, when I started this 3 4 years ago, there was like hardly any of these indie authors and whatnot being interviewed on YouTube at all. You'd type in their name and you'd get nothing back. And now there's an audience for it, and that's fantastic. That makes me so excited, honestly, because I think honestly we're getting the word out about
Mm.
a lot of these writers. A lot of people who didn't know about these writers before are learning about them now, and the authors have a platform to speak, and it's our channels, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I always love hearing their stories and what they've been through, and it's really fascinating to me.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure you get asked a lot to review arcs.
hmm
I'm sure you get a ton of requests. How do you handle all that?
I it's unfortunate, and I really feel bad about it, but I just had to stop doing that because um I work a very demanding job, and so there's some booktubers who can read like hundreds of books in a year. I can only manage about 60 to 70, and a lot of those are novellas. And it's all because of my job. I'm there for 12 hours a day, and I switch between nights and days every 2 weeks. And that wreaks havoc sometimes just on my mental health alone. I can't always be reading like I used to be able to. And so I've had to either cut back on that or just say no. The funny thing is, like on my Twitter, I have pinned at the top that I have, that I've paused. I'm not taking any requests right now for book reviews because of this. And yet I still get people who, it's not just on my Twitter. I've also talked about it a fair amount on my channel, but you still get people who ask, and that's fine. Um, I don't mind. I understand why they're doing it, and because I've written myself, and I have had a couple books out. It's very hard to get your word out and to get into contact with people like you and me, and Brad Proctor, The World According to Jay. It's a big thing for them if we can hold up their book and say, "I read this book and it's awesome." But we do have real responsibilities. I wish I could do that just as like a living, just read
Yeah.
books and talk about them online and make money off that because it would benefit writers and it would benefit my mental health, that's for sure. But yeah, I have had to step back. I started doing that when I started my channel, and the reason why I stepped back is because of that, and also because I'm a huge mood reader. There's books out that have come out by my favorite authors. It'll take me like a year to get to read them because I'm just not in the mood for it.
Mm.
And then when I am in the mood for it, it's so much more enjoyable than if I just push through when I'm not in the mood for it. And so that can affect my mental health too, honestly. If I'm reading too many, that's why I haven't been doing any interviews lately because I like to read the books from the authors that that I'm going to be talking to. And so I found myself doing the exact same thing as doing reading ARCs, but I really enjoy the interview process a lot more than just reviewing. So I'm going to be getting back into it. I just need to take a step back because I was just getting tired. I just needed I just needed to read some Star Wars books, you know, like just relax and chill for a little bit. So I'm probably going to be doing that kind of stuff again in the new year.
Oh, good. Yeah, I always feel really bad too when people contact me because I still it still surprises me that anyone thinks or anyone cares what I think, but I know that
Yeah,
they're trying to get the word out, and
that's
I
weird
feel
too,
bad.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. What does it feel like for you when someone says, I read this book because you said you loved it and I loved it too? Is that still strange?
That is strange, because of exactly what you just said. It's weird that somebody would take my opinion and trust it. And actually I've had issues with this a little bit because when I review a book, I view reviews as opinions. Um, they're not objective; they're subjective, and I think that with everybody's reviews. When I'm watching a review on BookTube or I'm reading one on Goodreads, I'm not looking to see whether or not they enjoyed it. I'm looking for what they liked and what they didn't like because oftentimes they'll say something about the book that they either liked or didn't like, and I'll be like, "Oh, I like that. I that makes me want to read this book." And it doesn't matter if they liked it or didn't like it, 'cause there's been a lot of books where the reviewer was talking about, I hated this book because the protagonist is an ass and he did this and did that, and I'm like, you know what? That might be. I get it. That character sounds like a real jerk, but that might be fun to read. You know what I mean? And so I'll go over and read it, and I'll be like, yeah, that was fun to read. But it's I had a completely different reaction to the reviewer, and it's not the reviewer's fault. It's not the writer's fault. It's nobody's fault. It's just people's perception.
Mhm.
And so I've always found that kind of a weird balance when somebody says that they trusted you and they went and it's not wrong. Like it's great. I'm glad because that's sort of why I'm doing this in the first place, right? I'm trying to make people aware of writers that they may not have otherwise been aware of. And that it's also very rewarding, even though it's weird, it's rewarding because you know that you're doing something right when people tell you that they haven't heard of this author, but man, that sounds awesome. I got to go check it out. And that makes me excited that, maybe I'm doing something right, you know?
Yeah, and when you see someone say, "Oh, I didn't know about this author," and then they leave a 5-star review or they make a video themselves about it and they really
Yeah.
loved it, it's like makes you feel really good.
Do you ever get the opposite of that? Because I've had the opposite of that too, where they say, I went and got this book because you said it was scary and it wasn't scary. It sucked. Have you ever gotten that or something similar?
I haven't yet, but I'm sure it's coming.
I got that once. Or actually I've gotten it more than once, but the last one I'm the last one I'm thinking of is pretty much verbatim of what I just said. Is that I got this book because you said it was scary and it's not scary. It sucked. I was like, I'm sorry. Like I think I responded with, it's just my opinion, and it's not an objective opinion. It's a subjective, as in all art is. But
Yeah.
I'm glad that you went and got it though, because that helps the author out.
Yeah. You monster. Okay. Jay says I got a little nervous the first time I talked to Ronald Kelly,
Mm.
but I don't think I was nervous for anyone else. It could be from talking to them behind the scenes from time to time.
Maybe, but yeah, that was a pretty awesome interview. Ronald Kelly, that's funny because it was Paper Cuts, their show
Mhm.
that I knew of Ronald Kelly before because he was like writing books in the '80s, right? But I never read them. I didn't decide to read them until uh, their show. Because I was in I watched. I don't think I watched the whole thing, but I decided to watch it. And so I went and read a couple of Ronald Kellys after that. And it was awesome. The main one being the Halloween collection that he released. I think it was in 2020. And man, that was good. Like holy cow! I didn't know what I was missing all this time. So there you go. Like Jay, you just got what we were just talking about. You guys turned me on to a new author and an author who I should have been turned on to a long time ago because he's a legend, right? So
Yeah, exactly. I always find I'm more eager to read an author's work after seeing interviews here on YouTube. I really enjoy the interviews and chats.
Me too.
I said I would have missed out on some. I would have missed out on some of my favorite books this year if you guys didn't shine a light on some of these great authors. So thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you for saying that.
Yeah, and Jay says that he's close to hitting pause and review requests to catch up. 60 to 70 books a year is my max, also. And have you ever had a review request and then you did not like the book?
Yes, and that was actually a real struggle. Like there's one, I'm not going to say what it is because I did review it and I did not give it a glowing review, but I didn't crap all over it like I could have. I was just I just said I didn't like this book. I wish I did like it, but I didn't. And you know what? It was hard because I just want to be positive about things. I think one thing about me and my channel is I try to focus more on the positive side of things because I it's too easy to fall into the everything's negative and everything's crap mode because I find that some people rely on that and they do well, I guess. I don't know, but it's never been my style. I like to try to find like a positive thing. And this book, there was just nothing positive about it, really. It was just like from the editing to the characterization to the plot to some of the things that were happening in the book. It was just I had to struggle to read the whole thing, and that was when I decided that maybe that was the first time I decided that maybe I should take a step back on this whole taking ARCs because there's probably a lot more of where that came from. And and it wasn't where I actually started implementing that. It's just where I started thinking of that. But have you gone through that, Steve?
I have, and it's really tough because I don't. I mean, if I review a Stephen King book and I don't like it, Stephen King doesn't care if I don't like his book.
Yeah. Those
But
are
if
easy
I
to be
yeah,
negative with. Yeah.
but and also me too. I don't like to do negative things. I don't like to give negative reviews or it's not for me or
Yeah.
I don't want to dwell on it.
That's pretty much the way I say it's just, it's just not for me. I'm sure other people like I went and looked at the reviews of this book and there's a fair amount. There's like 5 or 10 reviews. It wasn't like a huge list of reviews, but the majority of the people there liked it. I was like, okay, so I'm obviously in the minority here, but yeah, like I said though, it's not objective, it's subjective. It's just my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really tough when, especially when they ask you to review it and then you agree to have a review. It's like you're in a bad position because I don't want it. I don't want to harm their book or their, I don't want to hinder their sales, but and it's me that everyone else may really love it. I just may not. I may not be that 1% who doesn't like it.
Yeah,
So it's tough.
it is for sure.
Well, it says I've stopped accepting review requests altogether because two separate authors got upset at me due to negative reviews.
They'll do that. Like it's completely human for an author because they worked on it, right? For a certain amount of time and a lot of them is in it and I'm not defending them though. I think it's another mindset thing. It's I've gotten bad reviews on my books and I've kind of not lashed out at the at the reviewers themselves, but I've talked about it on my own platforms. And apparently that's a big no-no. So I've got to learn to rein it in too, but I'm not mad at the reviewer. I understand that's just their opinion, but uh it yeah, it's a slippery slope because you have it I can see both sides because I've written books and I talk about books. And I used to review books on Goodreads all the time. I haven't been as much lately. I probably should get back into that, but you know, um, but yeah, I totally understand what you're saying, Juan, because I've been there too, where people get upset at you,
Yeah,
and it's a slippery slope. It's not easy.
yeah, it's tough. He says, that being said, I appreciate the work you all do because I truly feel that you're all promoting some great books I otherwise would have never heard of.
That's awesome. Thank you for saying that, Juan.
Definitely that, and that makes me feel really good too when someone says that they find books and they enjoy books that, channels like ours or Brad's or Jay or a bunch of other channels. I don't want to start naming them because I'll leave someone off the list, but
Yeah.
it's great that promoting indie books. Fit to be Read says, I was always hesitant to do indie reads because I don't know what to expect. I just had two really good sci-fi indie reads back to back, and we'll try to do more. Oh, it's good to hear.
Yeah. Actually, I think it was Refraction, Mike, uh, a review that you did recently. Is it Refraction? I have that book myself. Where is it? I'm not too sure where it is. My bookshelves are always a mess, but
Yeah.
but uh but yeah, that was a good review. And I'm glad that it's good when you find a really good indie book to read, because then I think there is a stigma on self-published books,
Mhm.
and that's another thing I think a lot of us are trying to turn around a bit, because they're not as bad as a lot of people seem to think they are. In fact, some of them are way better than what's being published by the big five. You know what I mean? The top five. And if they're not better, they're at least on par. A lot of them. Of course,
Yeah.
not all of them, but there's a lot more better ones than a lot of people seem to think.
Yeah, maybe it's just because I've been doing this for the last few months, but I think that's kind of changing a little bit. I think things are starting to move a little bit away from that stigma. It'll take a while, but
Yeah, for sure.
um, and Jay says bad reviews sell books, and not for me is the sacred book too much.
That is so true. I mean, you always see booktubers saying that this book just wasn't for me.
Yeah, it's a get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
Anyone in the arts, writing, fine art, etc., has to develop tough skin and be open for critique. If they take things too personally, well, perhaps this work isn't for them.
That's very true. It's something I've had to learn myself, and some other authors definitely have to learn. Like, there's some big authors out there who do terrible things when they get a review they don't like. I'm not going to go into any names, but if you're around Twitter at all, you've probably heard of some of these yourself. And some of these some reviewers get like a lot of rabid fans after them for simply stating their opinion. And sometimes these opinions weren't even all that harsh. They were just like basically what booktubers say: this book wasn't for me. I'm sorry. But and then because the author didn't like that, they get like an army of fans who come and attack them, and that's not cool.
Yeah, no, that's not cool. Priscilla says, I don't think it helps us get, I don't think it helps to get upset at a negative review. Speaking as an aspiring author, a negative review helps the author see if the story comes across the way he or she meant it to.
Yeah, that's definitely true too. Negative reviews can help. I know that negative reviews. I've only gotten like really two bad ones, and one of them helped. Honestly, with what I was trying to do. So that's very true. I mean, they hurt when they come in. They don't make your day any better. That's for sure. but if at the end of the day, if they're constructive, then they will help.
Fit to be Read says, Refraction was really enjoyable. We'll love to hear your take on it once you've read it. Definitely some things in that are of interest to discuss. And S Griffin 9 says, Jason, I follow you on Goodreads and I'm looking out for more reviews from you there.
I'm doing what I can. Time is really an issue for me these days. Otherwise, I'd still be pumping them out like I used to.
It is really tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, to keep up with everything. And do you have a schedule on your channel?
You mean like, do I put out videos on certain days?
Mm-hmm.
No, I've been trying to implement that. I try to do it on Saturdays and Wednesdays, but that doesn't always work out. So Saturdays is usually pretty easy for me to drop a video. Like, I have a video dropping tomorrow. That's actually discussing indie horror authors.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know if I'm gonna have anything for Wednesday yet. But I do have a video. I just don't know when I want to put it out. But yeah, it's like one of those things. I always shoot ahead. Do you shoot videos ahead of time?
Yeah, have to.
Yeah, me too. I like to batch. Like, you'll find that for 3 or 4 videos in a row, I'm wearing the same shirt. It's because I did a batch of videos in one day, and and Although I'm not opposed to wearing the same shirt for, a few days. No, but, yeah, it's usually I find that funny though because I don't know if anyone else notices, but I'll notice it myself because I'm the one putting them up. I'm like, "Oh, for 4 videos here, I've been wearing that same damn shirt. People are gonna think that I don't change." Because they sometimes those 4 videos will be out in, like, a 4-week time schedule, right? So, suddenly I'm the guy who's wearing the Cradle of Filth shirt all the time.
Yeah. I especially like your from the hip series. I think that's really fun. Just like a chat.
Yeah, I stole that basically. The name I stole the name from a podcast I used to listen to called Horror Etc. podcast, and they were one of the first podcasts to talk about horror movies, and absolutely fell in love with them back in like 2008, I think it was, and they started to pod fade around 2014, and that broke my heart, man, because they were like when when you become attached to a podcast, the hosts almost become like your friends. And so I loved them, and I hated it when they stopped putting out stuff and they were like, "Oh, we're gonna try, but we're busy." And everyone knows about that, right? But they've recently come back, and that's really awesome. But excuse me here. They would always have a segment where they would do like a from the hip, and that was just them, shooting the, from the hip, and I stole that too because I say that. Um, but when I stole that though, I figured they were gone and weren't coming back, and now they have come back, and they mention they're from the hip episodes, and I'm like, "Ooh, yeah, I hope they don't hate. I hope they don't. If they find out that I'm doing this type of thing, I don't think they will, but if they do, I hope they don't hate me for it because, if anything, it's to emulate them because I love their podcast so much. And basically, I just really like talking. It's become somewhat of a channel cleanup. I basically talk about what I'm doing, what I'm reading, what I'm going through in life. And they're always about 20 minutes long. I
Mhm.
pretty much do about one a month. And it's just me sitting down and doing basically what we're doing here. I take certain topics and I expand upon them, and that's it. Those ones aren't scripted except for the topics I actually want to talk about. And I always address the polls that I like doing on my channel too, because I go through periods of time where I'll just post poll after poll, and then I'll discuss them because I found that to be a lot of fun,
Yeah,
honestly.
I think it's fun when you read answers that like because I've done that. I've answered, you've asked questions before, and so then you read off, oh, so and so says that they prefer this, and it's fun for us. We feel like we're interacting with you and we're part of the conversation when you do those.
Yeah,
That's pretty fun.
it is fun. It's fun to do too.
And Juan says one time I recorded 2 videos a week apart, but accidentally wore the same shirt for both of them, and I had to explain to a couple of commenters that doing laundry is a thing.
Time is a thing, and laundry just doesn't always fall into that type of schedule.
Exactly. And you have a podcast too, right? I think you have an audio you posted online, your podcast.
Yeah, I decided actually, I think I forget where I got the idea to do this. It might have been from you. I think you started
Mhm.
doing this before me. I was like, that's a good idea. Basically, though, I wanted to change it up a bit. Though I started out doing it pretty much the way you do it, um, and some other YouTubers too, is just throwing out content of my videos into podcast format because I think it's a great idea because not everyone can watch videos. A lot of people listen to this type of thing while traveling,
Mhm.
and so it's great to have like an audio version where they don't have to have the video. And so I did it mostly for my interviews, but it was always my idea to have content that's separate from the channel, and I'm just starting now to get into that where I'm creating some podcast content that's going to be separate from the channel, although it's all going to be centered around somewhat the same thing. And so you're going to see some crossover, but there's going to be some stuff that's uh, for the podcast only, and obviously there's going to be videos that are only YouTube stuff. Is that the approach you're taking at all, Steve, or or are you just putting conversations and interviews up there?
Mostly conversations and interviews I've been doing, but there's a couple other ones that I've done. Mostly just the group stuff that I'm talking with someone else. I've thought about doing podcast specific things just for the podcast, but yeah, I've thought about it. But I've been a little bit surprised on how many people listen. And that I don't have, I don't have that many people listening, but there's a few I didn't expect any, so it's a surprise.
Yeah, it is. Like my channel, I'm at like 4,100 subs, and I have no idea how that happened because I failed spectacularly with the Darkness Dwells podcast. I nobody listened except for maybe when the author posted it on their interview on social media. You might get like a few people who would listen to it, but that's it. Nobody listened to it regularly, and I did that for like 4 years.
Hmm.
That was a big reason why I stopped doing it because there was no one listening. It was almost like I was talking into a dark room with nobody listening. And when I started getting subscribers on YouTube, I was like, why? Because I failed at this one thing, and I know why I'm doing better at the YouTube things because I watch some YouTube growth channels, and they give some pretty awesome advice on how to grow your channel, and it's worked somewhat for me, so I can't complain. But podcasting is where I came in to doing all this type of stuff. I absolutely love the podcast format, and it's something I want to get into again. And so I'm sort of using my channel to branch off and do a little bit more of that.
Hmm. That's a good idea. And if someone came to you and said, "Jason, I want to start a BookTube channel," what advice would you give them?
Oh man. Well, one thing, there's a few things. One is try to be positive about the whole thing. Just have fun. Don't go into it thinking about subscriber counts and views and all that, because if that's all you're concerned about, then I think your views and your subscriber count is going to reflect that. And what I mean by that is it's not going to grow. I think people can tell if you're having fun, if you're enjoying what you're doing. And I think that's why, and that's not all. Like, your channel isn't gonna grow just because you're having fun. Some channels take a while before it catches on, and then it'll catch on and it'll grow. But one thing I've noticed that helped me out a lot is watching those channels I was just talking about, the YouTube growth channels. They're not just specific for any one type of channel. Um, like, I'm talking about people like Roberto Blake, Think Media, Pat Flynn. They have some incredible advice on how to grow your channel if you're concerned with that at all. Basically, it just comes down to have fun and create good content. Where those channels I was talking about will deal with the more technical aspects like keywords and thumbnails and all that type of stuff. But that's something that you should probably learn too. I see a lot of booktubers who don't put very much into their thumbnails, and it's just like a still of them, like, and their face is all blurry. You should Nobody's going to click on that, right? You should make that, but that's the first thing that people see. So my first advice is to have fun. Second advice is to you don't need any special equipment. You can just use your iPhone or your cell phone or whatever. Just make good content with what you have, and if you're making good content with what you have and you're having fun, then that's all you need to do. You found yourself a brand new hobby that you're going to love, and if you're having fun and you're creating good content, it's going to catch on. There's no way ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah, I think it's tough to, if you start getting too concerned with subscribers and views, and you start to second guess yourself, and you get down on yourself, and just focus on making good stuff. And
That's gonna happen though,
yeah,
and that's part of the mindset I think that I was talking about before, because everything is a mindset. YouTube is no different. Um, having, as you just said, the having fun will get you through those doubts. And don't let those doubt. Everyone has imposter syndrome, whether you're a writer or you're a creator of any sort. There's other people doing the same thing that you're doing, and that voice in your head is going to come in and say, "You suck. Don't do this because they're better at it than you." And that's not true. That is not true. And if a third point I would say is to keep learning as you go, because let's just say your channel isn't up to Mike's book reviews level. We're gonna use him because he grew real fast.
Yeah.
He's at like 70,000 or something right now, right?
Oh wow.
And he started after I did, right? But he's really good at sitting down and going through major plot points of a book and discussing it. But just because he's a bit better than you doesn't mean anything. You can learn from him, and you can bring up your level of quality to his just by watching his videos and others like him, and learn. Just learn, absorb and learn, and you'll
Mhm.
get through. But that, when you're down on yourself, that is the worst, man. um because it almost feels like you're alone. It almost feels like you can't talk to anybody about it. You got to pull yourself through. And so my advice is to persist. Just keep going. Just keep going. Keep having fun. That's all you can do.
It's very good advice. And Jay says, I watched those grow your channel videos and lost subs.
I don't know what to say to that, honestly.
I don't know. Juan says, okay, Jason, you didn't have to eviscerate my thumbnails like that.
Actually, Juan, you create some of the best thumbnails.
I agree. And sometimes I see Juan's thumbnails and I'm like, wow, that's great. And I would never think of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're
Some of the
really,
funniest
yeah.
thumbnails I've ever seen.
Yeah,
They're awesome though.
and there's not a ton going on, but what's going on is really great. It's
Yeah.
just the right amount of text or whatever it is, and
Yes.
it's like, wow, that's awesome, that's great.
And that's a
I'm
crazy
really yeah,
balancing act, you know?
it is. It's a lot harder than it looks, for sure, for me anyway. In all seriousness, so much good advice, Jason.
Well, thank
So
you,
I wanted,
Juan.
so I wanted to ask you about a recent change on YouTube because they got rid of the thumbs down button.
Hmm.
So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, honestly, I think it's a mistake. Um, but I'm not hardcore on it being a mistake because ultimately the thumbs down button didn't mean anything. Um, it really didn't. I mean, the video I got the most thumbs down on, I think, was one of my gay pride, the interview that I did. I could be wrong on that, but I got like 7 or 8 thumbs down on one video that was kind of like that. Or there was another video where I was talking about religion, and I got a whole bunch of thumbs down
Hmm.
because I'm not the most religious person. I'm agnostic, and people, if they're people of faith, they don't like hearing that. And so I got like 3 or 4 thumbs down on that one as well. But ultimately, they don't mean anything because you still have the comments, right? If people, the thumbs up or thumbs down, I find the thumbs up are more informational than the thumbs down, because you have to either really tick someone off to get the thumbs down, or or I don't know what else. Like, basically, you're just angering people to get that. Um, the thumbs up though, if you get like, you do 2 videos that are alike, and one has like 50 thumbs up and the other one has like only 5, then you got to look at that video that didn't get very many thumbs up to see why, and you'll probably find your answer.
Hmm.
Uh, the one video that I got a lot of feedback on, and I got a lot of views on, I ended up taking the video down because I just had my information wrong on that video, and these people, they let me know it was on science fiction. I did a list of science fiction books that I really enjoyed, and I got the plot of one of those books wrong because it had been like 10 years since I read it, and I got so many comments on that. I ended up taking the video down not because of those comments, but because it made me uncomfortable that I got the plot wrong on it. And actually, I'm going to be refilming that video soon. But this video is like from 2 years ago, and it was like my second biggest video. I had like I think I was nearing at 10,000 views
Oh
on that.
wow.
And I was like, I just can't take it. Too many people are seeing me make a fool of myself. But again, the thumbs down didn't count. It was the thumbs up and the comments that helped more than the thumbs down. So ultimately, it doesn't matter to me. But I think it's a mistake because it's just another way of people expressing themselves. And if they want to hit that thumbs down button, then it was available, but it's not anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know if what I said there made any sense.
No, I did. Yeah, Juan says I never really paid much attention to thumbs up or down. What exactly are they for? Do you all know?
I think it's just a way for people to express themselves. There's three ways for people to express themselves. There was. They could hit the thumbs up, they could hit the thumbs down, or they could do one of those and comment at the same time. Didn't matter, right? Because if people are really ticked at you, they're gonna let you know, and in their comments, and yeah, uh, sometimes it's not very pleasant.
Yeah.
Usually, when a comment starts off with "well, actually," it's
Yeah.
going to be bad.
And Jeremy says I still see the dislike button on YouTube. Yeah, the button's still there, but there's no count.
Yeah,
So
it doesn't count it.
yeah.
Um, and you know what? It's hard for creators to find the actual count on videos. They'll have percentages instead of the actual count. I haven't been able to find the actual count yet. Anyway, I don't know if they need to update something on my end
Hmm.
or what. Can you see
It's
that?
on, yeah, it's on the if you go to content or all the videos are you'll still see the percentage of thumbs up or down. If there's no thumbs down, it'll still
Uh,
have 100%, and then
it
it'll
might be
give you a
because I
percentage.
check my stats mostly on my cell phone. With the YouTube Studio, it doesn't show it on that, but it probably does on the computer.
Yeah, the mobile app is kind of funky with Studio. It's you don't
Yeah,
see as much on the screen because it's smaller screen, but yeah,
true enough.
it's interesting change. And how do you handle negative comments like that? How do you respond to them, or what do you do with them?
When I started, I used to get like the most mundane insults from trolls, uh, calling me various bad names. I won't get into what those names are, but they're obviously very insulting and not very politically correct by any means whatsoever. And mostly with like things like that, when I see a troll commenting like that, I'll just erase it because it really does not contribute to anything. If anything, it just pulls everything down. But if it's something that I either said wrong or information I got wrong or whatever, I'll leave those up. And sometimes I'll explain. I'll be like, yeah, you know what, I really screwed that up. It depends on the comment itself. If it's very insulting and it's just like hate for hate's sake, then those I don't handle well. I'll get rid of them, or I'll sometimes I have responded. I'll tell you that I have responded, but I'm trying not to anymore. I'm trying to get rid of that kind of attitude in all aspects of my own life. I don't because when you respond to hate like that, you're just becoming hateful yourself. You're letting them win basically, and there could be a good reason why they're saying what they're saying. They could be coming from a serious position of pain themselves, and so you got to take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah, that's for sure. And, I like to thumbs up a video as a hey, I watched and enjoyed. I don't always comment on every video, but at least like to give a thumbs up if I watched.
Me too. I can't always comment because I watch videos a lot while I'm cooking. I find that I cook a hell of a lot more now that I'm on keto. And so I've always got my hands wet or they've just been touching meat and that's always when the video ends and that's where I'll usually comment. And so I can't always comment, but I try to. I just can't always do it.
It's tough to keep up.
Yeah. And sometimes you just don't think about commenting. You watch a video and you just don't really need to say anything about it. You just enjoyed yourself
Yeah.
and so you just let it go. I'll always hit the thumbs up if I can though, if I can remember.
And Mr. Morningstar is here. He's fashionably late.
How's it going?
And Joseph, hey Joseph, how's it going? Looking sharp. Thanks. And we're in almost in December, so I wanted to ask you about your favorite books of the year, if you have any favorites that stood out for you.
Of this year so far?
Mhm.
Oh man, this is where my mind goes blank.
Okay.
I've read a few. Philip Fracassi, he released a new collection this year, Beneath a Pale Sky, and I actually had a really awesome experience reading the first story in that because I took it to the well, it was on my Kindle Paperwhite. I took it to the beach, and the first story has like a weather phenomena type story in it. And I'm not going to say what it is because it kind of happens at the end of the story. But I was at the beach, and I had like rain or not rain, the mist from the beach hitting me, and it was really windy, and it just really played in really well to that. So that was an
Cool.
awesome experience, and I really enjoyed the rest of the collection too. Um, Mike Thorne, I was introduced to him this year, and he's a writer who's just completely blown me away, especially especially with his first collection there, and the second collection is really good too. And Shelter for the Damned, that novella, man, when I first started that book, I didn't think I was going to like it, and that worried me because he approached me for an interview, and I was like, oh no, what if I hate his book? What am I going to do then? But I ended up really loving it. I think it's going to make top of my year. And there's definitely more, but those are the ones that that really hit the bell. That really made me think. Those are the books that you made me think of when you asked that question. But those types of questions, my mind always goes blank, and I hate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Mike Thorne is so talented.
He is.
He's
It's
incredibly
incredible.
talented. Yeah, it's crazy. Josh says, I'll reply politely to a negative comment if it's not blatantly disrespectful, but I have no problem simply deleting a hateful comment and moving on.
Yeah. Like the really hateful ones that's all full of swear words and and terrible insults, those they kind of have to go, honestly, because they're not necessary and all they do is pull things down. Um, Mike from Mike's Book Reviews, he has a really awesome way of, or at least he used to. I don't think he really comments on like responds to people's comments on his channel anymore, but he used to. If somebody came on and started spewing hate at him, all he would do is say, "Thank you for commenting."
Yeah.
I love that approach because it's just okay. Yeah, that really derails people. I mean, instead of getting all angry and being like, "You bastard! How dare you say that about me?" Instead of doing that, say, "Oh, thank you for commenting," or "I hear you." Like that doesn't hurt either.
Kill him with kindness.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I have a couple more questions for you. I know you have to run, but I like to finish I'm trying to finish all of my conversations with a couple of questions. So the
sure.
first one is, if the zombie apocalypse happened today, what would be your weapon of choice?
This is actually a question I've thought about and quite a bit. Probably a little bit too much than should be considered sane, but I think honestly it would have to be something blunt. It'd either have to be a gun and like a lot of ammo, or if you can't have a gun, then something like maybe a lead pipe that isn't too heavy, but something that can crush skulls. Because and not get stuck in flesh. Like a lot of people would say like a machete or an axe, but I've never killed anyone. But I'm smart enough to know that there's a lot of stuff here, and an axe would get stuck. So would a
Yeah.
machete. And if you have a lot of them around you, you can't have your weapon getting stuck, right? So I think it would have to be something shortish anyway, not too heavy, and blunt. That's my answer.
Nice. And the other one is, what was your first job?
My first job was working at this grocery store in my small town here, my small Canadian town. And I got fired from doing that because I had a lot of trouble with the butcher table.
Mm.
The butcher table we had to scrape down with this. It was basically a block of wood with nails through it, basically, and the nails were meant to scrape off the top because that's where all the blood and crap went on, right? And I just wasn't strong enough to scrub it hard enough, and so they let me go.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a bummer.
Yeah, that was a bummer, but I kinda hated it there anyway. I didn't like the butcher table. I despite eating a fair amount of meat, I am an animal lover, and I just didn't like seeing that when I was, like, 15, you know?
Yeah, it puts things in a different perspective when you see how the sausage is made kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a different, you see meat in a different way after that.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Jason, thanks a lot for coming by to chat. We can go for hours and hours, but I know
Oh,
we
for
all have
sure.
things going on. But I want to thank you for accepting my invitation and coming by to just shoot the breeze.
I wanna thank you for inviting me. This was, I knew I was gonna have a good time, um, because, you're such a chill and awesome individual. I really enjoy watching your content, and, so I knew I was in good hands coming onto your channel. So thank you very much for having me along.
Well, that means a lot to me. Thank you for saying that. It's great to hear. So yeah, I try to make these easygoing and calm, and unless Jay's around, then it gets pretty
Gets
bad,
rowdy
but
then.
gets rowdy. But otherwise, it's pretty calm. So thanks everyone to for coming by, interacting with us. It's always a good time when people in the chat pipe in and just we can go back and forth. So thanks everyone for coming by. Hope you all have a great weekend.
Bye.